So that was I sat at that bar and I said, my goal is to get enough material, a monologue, and write monologues that I could get on the Tonight Show comedy team. And we start working what they call the Chitlin circuit, black-owned, black-operated nightclubs
Mm-hmm.
all over the country, as well as white nightclubs. I'd be the only white guy in an all-black area, and Tim would be the only black guy in an all-white area. And we
Right.
paid dues like no other act ever had to pay dues.
Mm-hmm. That's so yeah, in your book you totally describe it. I mean, you could have stopped there and that's impressive. You know what I mean? To so many. Here you are, you just got all this structure from the military, then you get out and you're surviving, you're providing, but at the same time you're just wishing for, you're praying for direction. And this thing, I don't want to say, I'm definitely not trying to say it falls in your lap because it did not fall in your lap. But at the same time, it kind of just comes out of nowhere. This guy really wants to get involved, even though you don't have a position for him. And then the next day, your guy drops out, which I didn't realize. That's hilarious to me. So you guys get this, and I believe you guys did this comedy team for like 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, I yeah, 6 years all over the country. Yeah.
right, all over the country. You guys are touring. How here you are. Here's my question. So now you're getting into this comedy team, which is the first of its kind. It's a big deal. You're also, I mean, that's a statement in its own. Like I said, it's the first black and white, but now you're spending time away from your family. You're getting that sacrifice, which is comedy provides. What was it? I mean, honestly, financially, was it a huge difference from what you're already doing? Was there a big sacrifice like that? Because, was it, hey, I didn't have any direction, didn't like what I was doing in construction and various jobs, but I was providing pretty, I was comfortable, what have it. But here I am, and I just feel totally called to do this, but it's a huge sacrifice with not only my time, I'm away, and it's, I believe in the book, you kind of wrote that you were kind of barely scrounging by, right? When you're doing this comedy team.
Scrounging is even a mild word. uh, the moment I went on stage, the first time I went on stage with Tim, and I got a laugh with something I had written,
Mm-hmm.
it was like an epiphany, like a dark cloud, like a B movie where the dark clouds open up and the sun bursts through, and my whole being went, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, this is what I want to do. Oh, I can't even describe that feeling. My whole body lit up. This is what I want to do. I want to be a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
That night, it was a Friday night. I couldn't sleep the whole night.
Mm-hmm.
I tossed and turned all night. I was married. I had a wife and 3 kids at the time. And I got up the next morning and I couldn't sleep all night. I went down to the church that I had gone to when I was a little boy, where I was an altar boy, and I sang in the choir, and where my mom actually sang in the choir when she was a little girl. And I
Mm-hmm.
went to that church, Ascension Church in Harvey, Illinois, and I prayed. There was no one there. I got on my knees. I said, God, I found it. I know what I want. I want to be a comedian.
Yeah.
If you let me make my living as a comedian, I promise I'll do charity work. I was making all these promises, because
Yeah.
I knew my whole being the thought that you might make a living making people laugh. I had been making people laugh in bars and behind the bar telling jokes and aboard ship in the service. I
Mm-hmm.
always was a good joke teller, but I never thought that I'd ever be in show business. So I admired comedians too. I used to watch comedians say, "Wow, that's amazing what they do." But the thought that I might make a living at that. Now I prayed. I said, God, I'll do charities everything. Now that was September 1969.
Mm-hmm.
September 2019, 50 years later, I went back to that same church, and on Sunday I gave a sermon on the power of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it quite simple. And I'll get back to your original question, but I just said, look, I said to the congregation, how many of you out there were ever thinking of somebody and you hadn't seen them in a long time, and the phone rings and it's that person,
Mm-hmm.
and you say, I was just thinking about you, and they say, I was just thinking about you too. And
Crazy.
you walk down the street, you have been thinking about a person, you walk down the street, you turn the corner, and you hadn't seen that person in years, and they're Steve. You go, Steve, you ain't gonna believe it. I was just thinking about it. And Steve said, I can't tell you, Tom, I was thinking about you. Now, I said, how many is that? And the whole congregation raised their hand. I
Mm-hmm.
said, if human beings can transfer thought, and obviously we can, then how much thought can be transferred to a supreme being?
Mm-hmm.
It's not rocket science to me. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that's the power of prayer that I really believe in it as a little boy, and I believe in it even to this day. So That being said, we set out on this journey. Now, keep in mind, there were no comedy clubs in those days.
Yeah.
So we worked all black clubs in the North and the South, all white clubs in the North and the South.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the Vietnam War was raging. You know, I'd gotten out of the service. Tim got out of college. Students were protesting the Vietnam War all over the country, and African Americans were rioting in every major city in the country, feeling disenfranchised from the system.
Hmm.
You know, one of the largest riots in the country was in Harvey, Illinois, where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right in my neighborhood where I grew up at. Riots, students, upheaval, all that. And in the middle of it all, Tim Reid and I are saying, let's go make some people laugh. You know,
Right.
anywhere there was racial tension, we went. We did 11 prisons in 1 year. We did the county jail in Chicago 3 times in 1 year. We did high schools, colleges, anywhere there was racial tension. We didn't preach. We went and tried to make people laugh. To this day, Steve, Tim will tell you the same thing. I can't tell you how many times, keep in mind that era, that 1969, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, Martin Luther King was assassinated. The Civil Rights Act was passed. We were just 5 years removed from that. You know, people weren't integrating. They could, but they weren't. You know, and here we were going across the land. And I can't tell you how many times after a show somewhere, a young black person would come up, a black guy, and say, you know, I got a white friend that I like, and I'd like to reach out to him. But if I do, the brothers are going to wear me out. But after watching you and Tim today, I'm going to reach out to my white friend. Then a white kid would come and say, you know, I got a black friend, and I really like the guy, but the white guy's going to call me names. But after watching you and Tim, I'm going to reach out to my black friend. That happened more than you'll ever know. I'll take that to my grave as something that I'll always be proud of, that Tim and I were able to accomplish, and sometimes on an individual level. But the irony was, in those days, everybody saying, you know, we need more race relations. You know, we need more discourse among the races. Tim Reid and I were the only discourse among the races in those days. We were the only one. If you're going to have race relations, that means you have to have race relations. When they were watching Tim and I on stage, we were having race relations. We were doing comedy. Now, we weren't preaching, you know, but you saw two guys getting along that liked one another.
I mean, okay, I can only imagine how validating that is. So here you get the laugh from doing, you know, your first, not comedy duo, but just your first anything with Tim Reid. So you get the laugh, you get bit by that bug, right? That, you know, you go to your church, you literally pray on your knees, you're making all these promises like, I got to do this. I got to do this. And then you get this, I don't want to call it a bonus, but just this absolute plus of, like you said, you're making a difference. It's a race thing. It's, you know what I mean? You guys have this relationship. Like you said, you're not just preaching. It's a byproduct of your comedy show. I can only imagine how great that was. I mean, how blessed you must have felt. What, you know, you guys did it for 6 years. I know it was, from what you said in your book, right? That's all I can go off of. But you said it was kind of this, I don't know, you know, I believe you said it ended as suddenly as it started. What do you think that was from? Because, I mean, 6 years is a long time, you know, it's not a lifetime, but it's not, you know, it's an intentional time is what I would say. It wasn't like somebody just got hot for a year and then they faded. 6 years is a chunk of time, you know? So here you guys, it ended after 6 years. What exactly happened? What happened? You know, why did it end?
Well, first of all, it was devastating to me, absolutely devastating. Tim had a wife and 2 kids. I had a wife and 3 kids. We were having a hard time feeding the family, making enough money, so on and so on. But I had a dream that Tim Reid and I were going to become the greatest comedy team of all time. That was what I wanted, you know, to be as successful as Martin and Lewis and everybody else. You know, and Tim wanted to be more of an actor, and he also he wanted to be a stand-up comedian as well. But he started getting disillusioned toward the, and it was very difficult. We're fighting for gigs all the time, and we opened for Della Reese, a singer, and her and Tim started having an affair. I'm not telling stories out of school. We wrote this in a book. Tim Reid and I wrote a book years ago called Tim and Tom, an American Comedy in Black and White, and which has now maybe become a miniseries on Netflix. They're pitching it as possibly doing a 6 one-hour miniseries, and 2 guys played Tim and I,
Wow.
and what we endured during that era, that period.
Crazy.
But yeah, and we're the best of friends to this day. I love this guy. He's like a brother to me. And when we see each other, we hug each other. His children call me Uncle Tom. I've been their Uncle Tom since they were born, which is a funny story in itself. They call me Uncle Tom. But at that time, the frustrations were coming in, not enough work and not getting the recognition that we thought we deserved. And Tim Delarice took him off to the West Coast. Tim left his wife for a while, and next thing you know, he's going to get a divorce, and he ends up staying with Delarice up in Bel Air, and I'm on the south side of Chicago. Anyhow, we did one last gig together, and I now I'm devastated. I don't know what I'm going to do. My ex-wife, what was her name again? Oh yeah, Plaintiff.
Okay.
She wanted me out of the business. She hated show business, and I don't blame her. She didn't marry a guy in show business. She married a working stiff like her dad. Her dad worked in a factory 40 years and never missed a day. Got a check every Friday on that table. There was a check. Here, I'm in this precarious business. Sometimes we'd have money coming in for a month and a half. She wanted me out of the business, always. She always thought it was a dumb idea. Conversely, Tim's wife, Rita, thought it was a wonderful idea, and she was very supportive of us, But so my wife wanted me out of the business. So now when the team wakes up, she thinks I'm now going to give up. But I'm sitting in a bar one night thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? It's like 2:00 in the morning. My buddy owned a bar called the Soki, and I used to attend bar there. And I actually was a bouncer there. One time I checked ID cards and stopped fights all the time, But anyhow, I had 2 beers in front of me because people were buying drinks. And when they kept buying more drinks, they put shot glass in front of you. So you had like more coming, I'm sitting here drinking beer and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And I was always good at alternatives. I said, I can either get another black guy and do the same act, or I can get a job in the factory and please my wife and give up this dream of being a comedian, or I can go it alone and try to be a stand-up on my own. And sitting at that bar, I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go it alone. And like I always set goals and things. I said, my goal is to get on the Tonight Show. In 1975, wherever you went in America, people say, what do you do for a living? You say, I'm a stand-up comedian. The next question out of their mouth was, oh yeah? You ever been on Johnny Carson? Right. If you had been on Johnny Carson in the eyes of America, you just weren't a comedian. You might want to be one. You might going to be one, but you weren't one now. So that was I sat at that bar and I said, my goal is to get enough material, a monologue, and write monologues that I could get on the Tonight Show. Because one appearance on the Tonight Show, Freddie Prinze got a sitcom the next day. Right. Everybody knew. Yeah. 26 million people watched that show. 26 million people. You score on that show, you're on your way. Right. So I'm in a bar in Harvey, Illinois. This goes through my mind. I'm going to make it on the Tonight Show. And I start thinking, what could stop me if I wanted to do this? I read a book by W. Clement Stone many years ago called Positive Mental Attitude. And in the book, he said, if you know what you want in life, and if it's a noble endeavor, search your life. See if there's anything in your life that can deter you from that noble achievement and get it out. And I thought about it and I said, what could stop me if I wanted to make it and get to the Tonight Show and make it as a stand-up comedian? And I looked in front of me, it was alcohol, beer. I love to drink. I love drinking beer. And I could have been an alcoholic like my dad or like my mom was at one time. And I thought, alcohol. You can't wake up with hangovers and write material. You can't get drunk at night and every now and then get in a fight every now and then, because I grew up in that kind of neighborhood, You can't go on stage with a broken nose and a black eye, Right. But it was all about alcohol, and I said, that's it. I quit. And I pushed the 2 beers across the bar, and my buddy, who was Jimmy Lepore, an Italian kid, he came up, he said, through for the night, Tommy? I said, I quit. He said, you quit for tonight? I said, I quit. He said, I said, I quit drinking. He went, yeah, right. I'll see you here tomorrow night, Yeah, right. Yeah. And I never touched another drop till after I was doing the Tonight Shows. And then I tried to drink a little bit and I didn't like it anymore. And I say this to young comedians all the time. This is the most important organ in your body as a comedian. Don't destroy this brain with drugs and alcohol. I've known 5 comedians who committed suicide. I knew another 20 to 25 that through drugs and alcohol committed suicide. When you walk out on those stages, you got to be fresh. You got to feel good. It's like an athlete. I began to run marathons. I ran marathons. I was running all the time, staying in shape, playing basketball in the league. I played in the softball fast pitch league and the shoulders league till I was 58 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be in shape to go on this journey.
Sure.
I'm going to walk out in front of 20,000 people, and they all came to see Frank Sinatra, and I'm going to walk out there with a hangover.
Right.
Something you got to be sharper. Anyhow, that's a long answer to a very short question.
If you enjoyed this content, be sure to check out the Standing Still podcast, both here on YouTube and wherever else you listen to podcasts.